a detailed review of the paper as we have promised when we kickstarted this train at 6 a.m. And we are starting, of course, as always, with the Daily Trust. And on the cover of the Daily Trust this morning, the major headline reads, "How bright to be, 28 others die in Sokoto boat mishap. Village head loses 5 children, niece, 2 in-laws. Accident, second in 10 months, local government chair. Victims given mass burial." Before we take other stories on this headline, we are back again highlighting yet so much. What's the value of life in this country when you, at your position, sit and you have to make a decision to put stories like this on the cover page?
Very sad. You see, I didn't see the headlines of other papers this morning because when I woke up, I tried to, come over here. But it was a deliberate effort on our side when the news broke yesterday. Our reporter in Sokoto, he quickly called and said, this is what happened here in Shagaru local government area. It's very far from the state capital, and we asked him to move to that area so that he can get first-hand information. And it is only when you read the story that you will now see how life has been cheapened in Nigeria. And it is simply because our leaders, we will continue to say this, our leaders have failed. Yes, they have failed. Accessing this village was even tough. As I speak with you, our reporter, left his car midway because of the terrible nature of the road. He was able to get there, but while coming back, the vehicle collapsed, and then he just left it there. And because he has passion for the job, he struggled. He joined commercial vehicle, and then he was writing the reports on his way, and we waited for him. And the story is so pathetic. You see, all those people that died there in their early stage of existence, with, a lot of promising future, and that according to their parents, they were to go to the other side of the community to fetch firewood. You can imagine, and they use a canoe, and then probably overloaded it, and then it collapsed and capsized. Very few. You can see the photo of 2 young girls there. One of them was able to swim her way to the bank of the river, while the other one was rescued by local divers. But the message here is the response. Even the local government chairman, he said it was the councillor from that area who drew his attention, and then there was no response. There was no response. And that was why we lost these young, promising people, most of them girls, in their prime. One of them, she was due for marriage after Ramadan.
Terrible.
Yes, and you see the villager, he lost 5 of his daughters. 2 of his, 2 of them, his in-laws, and then niece and all that. It was pathetic. I was visibly, shaking while putting the story together yesterday. But what is the message? We have to change our attitude. You see, Nigeria is rich in water resource. You have more than 10,000 kilometers of waterways. Yes, and then around 3,800 or thereabout, you can access it seasonally. But are we tapping it? Nobody cares about the water resource. the pressure is just on the road. Yes, assuming, and you can link around 28 states out of the 36 states of the Federation through the waterways. Are we harnessing them? And apart from air transportation, I may be wrong, you are a business reporter. I think apart from air, water transportation is the safest, right?
Absolutely.
Aha.
Given the right equipment.
Good. And it's the most dangerous if you don't have the equipment. Yes. Yesterday, we just don't want to provoke anger. That was why we said, okay, let's just forget about the timeline, because we have the timeline in our library. A few months ago, we did an elaborate report showing the number of boat mishaps around the country. Yes, yesterday deliberately we said, let's just leave that, let's concentrate on this. But you can see now, assuming governors, you mustn't wait for the federal government to do everything. That is why you have federal system, right? Now, in some states, assuming they tap the enormous resources in the waterways, the creeks and all that they have, it's enough to bring succor to the people, enough to provide jobs, enough to provide and generate a lot of revenue, to the states. But nobody is doing anything. People have been left to their fate. They improvise the canoes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is quite really very dangerous.
No life jackets. Now these vulnerable children, innocently, and it was in the morning. All their parents, after the sahur, they went back to sleep because of the Ramadan. And now the children, time to go and fetch firewood, because the community leader said, while some of the children, fetch it for their parents, others fetch extra to sell, and get something for themselves. Now, their lives have been cut short because of the shortcomings of some people.
Really, really very sad. I'm really keen about, emergency, responses to, issues like this. In recent times, we've seen quite a number of, boat mishaps here and there within, the country. But is government really doing enough, in responding to
it's
emergencies
not doing anything.
like this at all?
It's not doing anything. As I said, most of the people improvise the canoes, using trunks of trees and all that. Then they don't even have the wherewithal to procure life jackets, or even whistle and all that they can call
to communicate
for help. Yeah, they just move, just the way we dress like this. That is how they now move onto the canoes, and then they get into the rivers, creeks, and all that. So whatever happens, nothing. And then we are doing a story now. We've been doing it. I will not get tired. We are doing a story on the state of fire service in the country, at the national and at the state level.
That's
because
another
they are the first point of call, right?
Exactly.
First responders.
They're supposed to respond. But in some places, it is very common to see them being pelted by people. Because by the time they arrive at scene of maybe fire incident or whatever, the fire has consumed whatever is there. So you see people venting their anger on them.
Exactly. Sometimes when they are called, I've seen instances when they are called and then they say there's no water.
No water. Look.
No fuel in the car.
No fuel. Sometimes when they call, they will even ask the people, can you please help us with a gallon of petrol?
My goodness.
So that we can fuel the vehicle and then go to the water point. And then, so before you know, there is nothing to rescue. And I remember about 2 weeks ago, they were jeered and then, pelted in Plateau, in Jos precise, Well, by the time they got to the scene of the fire, everything was gone. So people were so angry. And this is recipe for chaos, because you cannot blame them completely, because it's not just giving somebody a vehicle or the uniform and all that without you see the support.
support.
Yeah, if you ask them, they will say they can't even remember when last they received the running costs, which they will use to buy, fuel and all that.
Amazing.
So it's very sad.
I don't know when it will come. There will ever come a time where, firefighters, for instance, in the US, in the UK, are seen as heroes. For us here,
it's amazing when you say it so, because as a business reporter, about a year or two ago, I was looking at the budget of the New York Fire Service. It was bigger than the Nigeria budget put together. And so it tells you how far we need to move as a country. I would like you to speak, Madam Hamza, to your second lead story, which is on the APC presidential ticket. The president's body language unsettles Oshibajo, Tinubu, Amechi, and others. What can you say to this body language that sort of puts everybody in limbo?
You see, it's not really peculiar to President Muhammadu Buhari, in fairness to him, as far as this story is concerned. It has been the trend since 2007.
Okay.
Let me put it that way, because 1999 was when Obasanjo was drafted, and then while exiting, if you remember, he allowed the scene free. That was when you had almost all the PDP governors, with the exception of one or two. Almost all of them, they bought forms. Other people also bought forms, the vice president and all that. And then Obasanjo was just looking at them. Then from nowhere, he picked Yar'Adua, who was not one of those who showed any interest in it. Yes. So it's the trend in Nigeria. But this time around, people are curious because they know the attitude of our president. Yes, he has this. Is it big stomach, if I can use it, because that he can keep a lot. Yes, and you cannot predict his next move. But if you look at his relationship with all of those who are aspiring to succeed him, they are all confident that it is going to be them. Yes, because of one thing or the other. If you look at the vice president, if not of recent, when his powers were whittled down, at the time he was controlling the economy and all that. And then we did a report, in February or thereabout. We said the vice president, has contacted the president, and he will soon declare for yes. People were so angry. People around him were so angry with that report. They said we were even lying and all that. It has come to pass. For Amechi, severally, he said he would not vie for it. So you can see.
Money for the tickets.
Then who is the other one there?
The Tinubu, of course.
Tinubu, he was the first. People were blaming him for
coming out a bit.
But Tinubu, he has been preparing since 2007.
True.
That's a long time.
Yes, in 1999, when he was governor of Lagos State, that was where he started, because he created mini Nigeria there. And then since then, he partook in almost every transition, by reaching out, supporting other contenders from local government and all that. Some people are claiming that if anything, he has been the most the early caller to it. So almost each and every one of them feels that he has what it takes. But you can see, I was telling one of our colleagues in the newsroom that, look, I think it was podcast, our one. he asked me a question during one of the programs. I said, if you can find your way to the villa, if you tell President Buhari that you want to succeed him, he will smile and say, Allah Bakasa.
But if I may ask, what should they be most worried about? The presidential endorsement or the confidence of the people? Which should precede which? Why does it suggest, by the way they have all gone, that all that would matter for you to win an election is the endorsement of a president?
Because the endorsement of the president is good, you understand, because if you have his nod, it's like maybe 30% or thereabout, because presidents that are rounding up their tenure, their propensity to decide is minimal, because it's survival of the fittest. Yes, people will fight back because they know they stand to lose very little. Yes, only that this time around you can see the INEC, which is the electoral empire, it has stretched the timetable, because we are starting very early compared to previous seasons. Yes, so the president can still tackle whoever misbehaves, because this is April, and then the candidate will emerge between now and first week of June. And then you can see, which is almost 10 months away to handing over. So even after you have the presidential candidate, the president has enormous resources and powers to protect whoever he chose to succeed him and all that. But you can see during the APC's primary, convention, yes, that ushered in new leadership. Apart from the national chairman, governors had their ways in the emergence of most of the other this thing. As I said earlier, it is not common for the president to have absolute powers in electing who becomes the flag bearer, because I don't foresee consensus, yes, in the emergence of the flag bearer of the ruling party. Even the leading opposition, you can see how they are, back and forth in respect to how to elect their presidential candidate. So it's an interesting time for all of us. We will continue to watch. But above all, answering your question in one or two words, what I expect from the contenders is not about endorsement, but about policy, and then what they will do differently. Because Nigerians are disenchanted, Nigerians are angry, they are not happy. It's not about, Nigerians are not bothered about your face or from where you come. Based on my interaction as a political reporter, most Nigerians are talking about who will salvage them. So the expectation ordinarily should be on policy. Yes, the contenders should start talking seriously on what they will do differently to bring back Nigeria from the brink.
So I really do hope they bank on that. Well, let's take a look at some other stories on other newspapers this morning. There are really very interesting stories on the Daily Trust newspaper. The one on the blueprint says continuous voters register, over 1.3 million invalid PVCs detected, worrisome. And this is coming from INEC. Well, some would say, I thought we should have moved, past this or detected this earlier rather than now.
You see, we also had that angle earlier yesterday because of the digital nature of journalism now. Yes, Reporters were there during the briefing. Now, as the chairman and other commissioners were speaking, they were, sending reports to their various media houses, and then the online editors kept updating. Later, they called. They said these problems, they are specifically from the continuous voter registration. It's not about the general voter register.
Okay.
Yes, and if you check our paper, we realize that it's not all bad. There are other interesting angle, like in the ongoing registration, youths are leading.
Yeah, I saw that.
So we
one
found
of
it
the
more
papers this
interesting
morning.
than the bad news. You understand that, okay, many people would not vote.
Right.
Yes, we said, look, 78.7 or thereabout of the new, people who were enrolled in the ongoing voter registration are young people. I found that angle very interesting, and then during our meeting, we advised the politics desk to anchor our story from that perspective, because it's positive. It will encourage more people to go out and get their PVC, because it's not about campaigning. It's not about people coming out to say they want to vie for ABC. Voter apathy is a serious problem, because if people do not go out to vote, meaning they are giving room for, people who don't have capacity, people who have nothing to offer, to find their way to the corridors of power. And yes, it's very interesting that young people, but I hope that we will find a way of convincing them. We discussed this last week, that many people get this voters card not because they want to go out to vote, but because they can use it as security. They can also use it to, get certain privileges. So INEC, National Orientation Agency, community leaders, religious leaders, I think they should use this opportunity to encourage people to not only get the PVC, but to also get set to go out and vote.
That's
when
true.
the time comes.
Our reviewer said it all. If you want to truly take power away from the hands of the elite, the only way to do that, it's with your PVC.
Yes, it is not given. You have to get it. You have to grab it. Yes.
You have to, especially if you think that 60% of our population constitutes of people between the ages of 18 and 35, which is the age that is ripe enough for you to have a say in who becomes a leader in this country. But still staying with that story, this time a minor rider before we move. It's the story of senators begging the APC national chair for return tickets. In other papers, they say, give us automatic. Does it not negate the very essence of democracy or fair play? Or, if they were confident about what they had done in the last 4 years, why would they be asking for automatic ticket rather than go back to their constituency?
It has been the norm for a very long time. And you see, most senators are not in good terms with their governors. Most of them.
Why so?
Power play.
The governors want to be senators, the senators want to be governors.
Especially governors who are rounding up their second term. I can assure you that most of them will transit to the Senate. And, national chairmen of political parties exude enormous power. Yes, it was during his valedictory, at the Senate, when they now made this passionate argument that they should be given automatic tickets. We don't know, It's also a good player. So some of the senators believe that even though maybe they performed in the last 4 years or whatever, they still feel that big push for them to get the ticket. Again, because the governors, it's not that they will only take a ticket from their senatorial zone, they will also like to come together with some of their friends, yeah, for the other two senatorial zones, yes. And I'm sure the same appeal will have been made to the speaker. Yes, this one just came out simply because there was transition yesterday. Yeah. The chairman was leaving. The deputy national chairman, North, Senator Abukar, was also leaving. And then the new deputy governor of Zamfara State was also leaving. So it was time for but we know, as reporters, we know that there have been nocturnal meetings and all that. And it was part of the compromises and all that, because we know some of the aspirants of the chairmanship, they use that as bargaining tool, yes, during the campaign for the chairmanship. Yes, many of them told some senators and all that, including governors, that if you support my aspiration, I will give you automatic ticket. In fact, I will allow you to select members of the State House of Assembly, members of House of Reps, and then senators. Yes, there are some of the aspirants who now traded the campaign.
Their candidature.
Yes, their candidature with this offer to governors. But you can see it has come. We are aware of this.
Amazing, amazing.
Really very interesting. Now let's move away from that story. We're also seeing that the Nigeria Labour Congress is giving the federal government 21 days to resolve ASU in an other union crisis.
Maybe they are being big brother. Yes, they are also tired. But you see, a few weeks ago, we did a pull out on Sunday here in Daily Trust, where we brought about so many issues bedeviling the education sector. And the summary of it, based on our findings, based on the interviews we conducted with eminent scholars, strikes are not solution to what is happening. This is one. And then secondly, government must stop playing the ostrich. I am going straight to the issue because you can see the body language of NLC is probably to also join this strike.
Right.
But it will not solve the problem based on our findings, because we believe that we shouldn't be part of the bandwagon of saying people should go on strike. It will not solve the problem. That was what prompted that 8-page pull out on Sunday. I hope that people will read it. I hope policy makers will also read that. I said government should stop playing the ostrich. Do you know why? Government is afraid to say that it is practically impossible to fund tertiary education. Now, during deliberations, I personally asked some questions when we were planning the story. I said, you were there Sunday.
Yes.
I said, how much do you pay for your child going to nursery school in Abuja, for instance? Zainab, how much do you pay for your child or your brother? Nobody pays less than 100,000 if you live within the city center, Amak,
Right.
per term. Right. Meaning you pay around 300,000 for your child going to nursery school.
Right.
Yes. What about your brother or your son attending secondary school in Abuja? You pay around 150 or 200. I'm just giving you the average. Yes. Now, will it be wrong if the federal government says that parents should pay for university education? Because it's all about funding. And the truth is, federal government, till the end of time, will not have the resources to fund tertiary education. And I can assure you that if we introduce tuition, but with also scholarship, because in other countries, we have traveled, we have seen what is happening. If you go to other countries, you see government providing loans to students who want to acquire tertiary education, so that by the time you graduate, you now start paying. Maybe within 20 or 25 years, you pay, you know, the money that government gave you to study. But others who can afford it, they pay. After all, it's not everybody that must acquire degree certificate. If you go to China, if you go to India, if you go to Singapore, if you go to Malaysia, where we are taking our words from here, you understand? It's not everybody that gets yes, degree, to be precise. In that report, we also scratch, because we will do another story, we also scratch the need to strengthen technical education, so that somebody with, do you know that many, more than 60% or more, I may be wrong, of the Chinese nationals that come here to build our bridges and all that, they only have secondary school education. It's not that they have degrees.
That's true.
You understand? And they earn a living. They come here, get a lot of dollars and yuan and all that, and then they, you know, take it back to their country. But here, you see almost every other person insisting on acquiring degree, insisting on working for the government. And that is why we will never get it right.
Unfortunately, so much to chew and ponder with regards to policy on education and how the educational sector has been run.
Yeah, so before you ask, what I want, personally, what I expect NLC to do is to also come up with a workable solution, not to say, not to give the federal government,
the crisis.
Yes, to say that, okay, we are giving you, how many days?
21 days.
24 days.
21 days.
21 days, that is 3 weeks to join the strike. It will not solve the problem. They will just aggravate the plight of Nigeria. They should see
3 weeks after the
yes,
Ramadan, perhaps.
please, they should not do that. They should articulate their points and ask government to introduce something. Let people pay. If you will pay for your child to attend, I honestly, I have no apology for it. This is my take.
You know, us are really confident that strikes are the only solutions.
But even them, because we interviewed the ASU president in that publication, he too was against introducing fees in the university. What kind of thinking is
this? It's
unfortunate.
And then we see a government that negotiates and then come back to renegotiate the outcome of his last negotiation and then ask for a review of a negotiation that has been reviewed over and over.
Because they are just in a circuit, you understand? They are just doing circuit. And the solution will not be there until they all stop playing the ostrich. That is the point I am trying to make.
Some keen watchers and stakeholders would say that if our policymakers had their children within the precincts of this country, schooling here, maybe they would have taken...
Let them continue taking them. But what we are saying is that let them, you know, articulate the policies and then allow universities to function. Look, universities are meant to, you know, introduce ideas. I read it somewhere that in New York, you understand, if you see the resources coming out from the universities, the money is coming out from the universities, it's staggering. Why? They conduct research, and then companies, pharmaceutical companies, companies making aircraft, you know, ships, and all that, you know, they go to the universities and then buy some of these, the patent. Then the universities get money. Here, what do we do?
Nothing.
It's true. Really moving on to the next paper, the Punch newspaper to be precise. A look at the cover of the Punch newspaper, you know, shows clearly that we have quite a number of those stories. A good number of them we had reviewed with the previous papers, so we would move to those we hadn't touched at all. Here on the Punch, there's a story that resonates with us in the last couple of days. Is the killing of the popular gospel singer, the Osinachi lady. I'm sure you would have stumbled on a number of videos in the social media highway. Osinachi, church unaware of abuse. Minister says husband married to another woman.
Oh my God.
How would you, what's your reflection on some of the kind of revelations that we have seen when it had become too late? Where did we get it wrong? I mean, what happened that she had to endure that amount of horror, until her death before we became privy to what she was living?
I have been following the trend since the first day. I read every story, but I was shocked with this one that the pastor said the husband was married to
another woman.
It's really shocking. It's the latest as far as I'm concerned. But before this one, you see, some of the reasons given was that she was a role model. And that it will be tough for her to walk out of that bondage because of the message her action, you understand, will elicit in the larger society. And that was why she decided to stomach the pain and the anguish. The man was said to be her manager also. Yes, I think they went to Edo, and they, ahead of their trip there, they sent money, the church where she went and preached, they sent money to do. He didn't even tell her. She was given 2 cars, but he forced her to use Okada. She will be standing by the roadside. He will come and drive past with the children. The children were also. I was shocked.
Yeah, I was living. Did you see the pictures of the environment where she lived? It has in no way correlates with the amount of fame and position.
Truly,
it's amazing.
And it doesn't really connect with the idea that she's a role model.
Yes.
And society has made it seem like role models shouldn't go through agony, or shouldn't pass through pain.
Yes, and they are superhuman, meaning they should swallow whatever. Yeah, and that was why I think she suffered. You can see the confessions from the children,
the sister, the mother,
sisters, and all that. Honestly, this man should pay a price.
But you are a family man, beside being an editor. At what point should people seek help? I mean, when you see these red flags, it's unfortunate that the mother and the sisters were private to some, if not all. What should they have done? At each of these points where they felt this lady was living with so much, but she wasn't. She was helpless.
You see, one of her sisters told her that even though it is not allowed to walk out or to end the marriage, you can separate, because separation is different from
divorce.
Yes, but the woman felt that she can make a difference. I think this was where she too got it wrong. Yes, because she believed in her faith, and she thought that she will make the marriage work. So while at home, she was in agony, crying all the time. But whenever she went out, she smiles and then pretend that all was well, because she wanted to bring about a saner society, because that was her calling. She wanted to bring a saner society that, look, after all, we can have a peaceful society, because she preached peace. Yes, and then when she was taken to hospital, she also hid the real reason, because they said that the man hit her on the chest. Yes, but assuming doctors were told this, I think they would have done something differently until when she was gone. So it was really
I think this also brings us to another issue, that sometimes women themselves, I don't know if they don't see this as red flags or what really the problem is, because sometimes some don't really want to be helped. Some don't even want to come out to say this is what the problem is.
I think it has to do with our teachings, especially the nurturing of the girl child. I don't think anybody, I can't imagine my own daughter under the roof of any man enduring this kind of carnage. Is it time, just aligning with what Zainab is saying, is it time that we begin to rethink the entire our entire value chain, and even the training of the girl child, to understand. Because if you come from a home where you have open communication with your father and your brothers, and you can walk up to them and tell them your challenges, and have a friendship rather than a boss-servant relationship, then it will be difficult for any man to offer you an environment that is different from where you grew up.
Yeah.
And you would take it and enjoy it and sit there because of what society would think about. What do you think we should do with regards to, starting from the girl child training that we can do to stem this?
You have said it all. As far as home front is concerned, the bond between parents and their daughters, that look, the larger part of life is in the matrimonial home. Ordinarily from the age of 18 or 20, a woman should leave the house of her parents and then have her own home. Yes, but that upbringing is key. And then we should not use religion to suppress them. Because Kalma says it's the opium of the masses.
Absolutely.
And up till now, religion is playing that role. Yes. I know in Christianity, divorce, you know it better.
Yes.
Divorce is not really...
It's not encouraged as much as possible. They say, okay, you could do something to make it work. But separation is at the point where one's mortality is contemplated, is threatened. You have to stay alive to be married.
So this brings, apart from the role of parents, now this brings the role of clergy. Yes, you can see now one of the pastors saying that they were aware that the man was married to another. Yes, ordinarily they should have assisted this woman. Yes, they should have assisted this woman.
Amazing.
to this. So it's a societal thing. Apart from parents, I think the clergy and then the community at large. We shouldn't see women walking out of their marriage as being waywards.
Fashionable, yes.
Waywards, because we see the women as waywards when you walk out. Even when you are about to die, people will say, no, you should have stayed and died there. You will go to heaven. It's not true.
Yes. It's a social, cultural, and religious dilemma.
So I think we should bring all these variables to play a role in empowering the woman. Because it's about empowering them to know their right while they are subservient to their husbands. There must be mutual respect.
Absolutely. And then most importantly, as somebody said, even the boy child education. It's not fashionable to raise your hand and hit a woman.
Why should you, honestly? There are so many ways to get back right now.
Yes.
Because I know how I rebel in my house.
Absolutely.
Should I tell you how I rebel?
How do you, sir?
I would not eat.
Oh, that's even more devastating.
Yes, I would give money, I would provide the food, but I would not eat.
Oh no, that's emotionally draining.
You see, but this will take shape.
Staying with the Punch newspaper, we have one or two other stories of interest. 677 drug traffickers jailed, 3,359 arrested in 3 months. Where are we heading? With the appointment of Marwa as the head of the NDLA, we have seen some kind of resurgence with the NDLA. But more importantly is the kind of revelation we see on a daily basis. And I'm saying this because there is a nexus between the amount of drug abuse and drug peddling with crime and terrorism, as we have seen. It's a major enabler of some of the terrorist acts that we have seen. Why have we become so much of a consuming nation when it comes to illicit drugs?
Look at the, is it 8 container load of cutlasses?
Yeah. I want to ask, what are we using them for?
Tawdry election, is coming. And then it's just the headline. If you read the story there, also consignment of wheat. They were intercepted together, the cutlasses and then the wheat. So politicians will not, because here in the story that we reported, there was no bill of landing, you understand? There was no clearance from the office of the NSA and all that. So it goes to tell you how low we have gone in Nigeria. All our borders are so porous to the extent that bringing in all these things is so easy. Yes, so I think it's beyond Marwa. He's doing his best, and I think he deserves our support. He deserves accolades, and you can see he has passion for it, because NDLA has been there. I think since the time of who? There was another...
I think from Babangida's time, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I'm talking about one of the
bosses
there who also
did incredibly well.
Exactly. But Marwa is also making a difference, just the way he made a difference when he was in Lagos and all that. Now you can imagine if you have his kind in other agencies, because it's a chain.
It is.
You understand? So I think the immigration should also up their game. Customs should up their games. NAFDAC should up their games. Police, you understand? The military and all that. If they will all be on the same page, you understand, I think we will be able to bring down some of these things. And it has to go hand in hand. Diligent prosecution. You can see now the numbers as reported by the Punch. You know, it means that maybe those who took the culprits to court were well equipped. Therefore, prosecuting the case wasn't a problem. Because sometimes we just blame judges for not sentencing criminals. Yeah, but judges are not Father Christmas. You have to prove your case. You have to. I'm not trying to cover them. They have their shortcomings, but you can see if you take a suspect with the consignment, what evidence are you looking for?
That's true. I think
looks like we have to
wrap up. It's at this point that we draw the curtains on the paper review. I'm sure it has been a jolly ride with the general editor of the Daily Trust newspaper, Mala Hamza Idris, who is our studio personality for the International Day for Laughter.
Indeed.
Today in the studio. Thank you very much for finding time to be here with us.